I started my writing life as a playwright because I started my career. Essentially, I wanted to be an actor, and I was an actor for well over 30 years. And the trouble with playwriting is it's very difficult to get plays on. But I still write plays, and I still love writing plays, and I don't act anymore, except in a one-man show based on a couple of my stories. So really, my prose narrative writing stems out of my experience as a playwright. I had some success as a playwright, translating plays and with original plays, one of which was directed by Alan Ayckbourn at Scarborough way back in 1985. And actually I studied Alan Ayckbourn's plays very seriously, and I was fascinated by the way he reveals character, not through telling you about them, but by simply the way they say things and the way they don't say things. So this particular narrative in Virtue and Danger is very much influenced by my experience as a playwright. I naturally think and write in scenes and in dialogue, and there's a good deal of dialogue in that, and in action. And round about sort of the year 2000, I decided that I couldn't get very much further with playwriting. I'd written a biography of my aunt Stella Gibbons, who wrote Cold Comfort Farm, which had some success, but I knew that I didn't want to write biographies anyway. I only wrote that one because, as it were, I knew about her, and because nobody else had written about her. I don't think I could explore, as it were, unvirgin territory where biography is concerned. That would be rather boring. So I started to write prose short stories, in particular supernatural ghost stories, but essentially stories about, as it were, the spiritual nature of man and how it can become corrupted by egoism of one kind or another. And out of that came the memory of a time I spent at a hotel in Caux, which is in Switzerland, which is above the Lake of Geneva. You can see the castle of Chillon from it, which was the headquarters of this strange organization called Moral Rearmament, which is now more or less defunct. And I heard stories about it from various people in it who were sometimes frank, sometimes rather secretive, and I was fascinated and amused by it. And I was particularly fascinated by the way they saw reality, which was through these spectacles, which, if you belong to a cult, you, as it were, you put on a certain kind of spectacles, a certain kind of way of looking at things, and it rather distorts reality. I mean, in the eyes of people who are outside the cult. And that, too, is part of the fascination of it. But also, the place itself was rather exhilarating. It was extremely beautiful. It was a huge ex-hotel. It had a beautiful little, sort of almost little model theatre, like a little opera house, where we acted these rather dreadful plays for them. And the atmosphere was particular and fascinating. I've always thought that closed communities of any kind made a very good subject for novels, because they are little worlds, they are microcosms, and because within them it's like any kind of fantasy. Fantasy worlds like Lord of the Rings or whatever create worlds in which people behave in a certain way, and they reflect reality, but they also reflect on reality. In other words, they're a kind of mirror of what happens in the real world, but they are also a comment on what happens in the real world.